Welcome to Tail Learn Code. Here there will be tales about software development, learning from each other, code to build solutions. And now your host, Chad Green.
All right, welcome everybody. Hope everyone's been having an awesome afternoon. Hasn't been that long since I've streamed. It's only been, 5 hours since I last streamed. That's what Jamie and I were joking about. He's like, yeah, it seems like you stream several times a day. I'm like, well, some days. But especially when I have interviews, right?
Yes, right.
I gotta admit,
you can't fit them.
Well, that was the funny part.
Them next to you. Yeah.
Well, that was the funny part. I mean, when I announced to the speakers, hey, I want to do these interviews, I figured I'd have to be pulling teeth, and I had all the slots taken in like a heartbeat.
I know. I responded I was like, snooze the email for like a day. I was like, oh, I'll respond to this tomorrow. Yeah, and it was all taken. Yeah.
Of course, that's what you get when you send an email to a bunch of people who loves talking.
Right.
So,
your audience.
So sure enough, I mean, tonight we've got Jamie Wright. So Jamie, I forget, were you a first-year speaker at Code PaLOusa 2011?
You know, I was. Yes, I believe I was. It was either first or second year.
Hold on, let me look at
first.
It was funny.
Yeah, I was
actually,
thinking about that earlier.
Matt Groves. Oh, I closed my email. Matt Groves actually, because I don't have it anymore. Matt Groves actually sent me the original schedule. Because
you don't have it up?
No, I'm actually bringing it up right now. But Matt Groves actually had the email from way back in 2011 with our original schedule. Let me find it real quick.
I'm trying to remember how I heard of Code PaLOusa. It must have been just through the community, local here, I would imagine.
Let's see here. So I've got of course now my search won't work. Of course Adobe wants to play games. Now Adobe wants to freeze up on me.
That's what Adobe's good at.
Well, I mean, sure. I mean, maybe I'll forget that idea because Adobe wants to slow down. But point is, I know you've spoken at quite a few.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I missed 2.
No, you were a first year.
Oh.
And you talked. Your talk was "Getting Real." Was the name of your talk?
Oh, that was a good one.
In the entrepreneur track.
Yeah, that was a talk based on the 37 Signals book.
Yes, now I remember that.
Yeah, and I took philosophies from their book and applied it to freelancing consulting, where the book was mostly on creating SaaS applications. So, yeah, I really like that talk.
So sure enough. So I don't think you've spoken every year, but you're one of our original speakers, which I tell them all. I mean, I love those original speakers. Because no one knew who I was. Right? I mean, because that was before I was speaking. Well, that's not true. I spoke a little bit, but here in Louisville, right? I had not spoken outside of the area. And sure enough, and I mentioned before, Phil Trubisky was actually a big reason why. I mean, because I was already friends with him, and he reached out to the MVP community.
He was the reason why you started Code PaLOusa?
No, it was the reason why I got so many speakers.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, because he.
Why did you start?
So it was actually there were a couple of different things that came all together at the same time. So Jeff Blankenberg, that was when he was an evangelist for Microsoft. He reached out to the user group that I was a part of. I wasn't even running the group yet, but and saying, "Hey, you guys should do a data.net," because that was when data.net was still really big. And it was funny. We were actually supposed to have a meeting to talk about the people who were running the group at the time, to talk about, hey, what could we do? What do we think about this? And like the weekend before, I was at not Star Trek. I was at Codestock. And Rachel Pell was the keynote speaker, and her whole keynote was about community. And I've told her the story. I actually got really inspired by that. Went back to Louisville, and a couple of days later we have this meeting. I'm like, I want to do this, and I want to run this whole thing. Right? I'll take this. I'll take the main reins of this. And
you want to Yeah, that's off. Yeah, because there was no like conferences, regional conferences that I remember in that area. Like for me, there was a lot in Michigan. There was Code Mesh, of course,
Yep.
around here, and then there was like a Gap in Kentucky,
Yes.
and then there was a bunch in Tennessee. So I remember that well.
Well, that was the other driving force for me was we were, for a while we were seeing Microsoft stop in the city and at least do, they would do tours and it would come to the city. Those stopped, right? And it's like, well, I want content, right? Number one, I need to be able to learn, but I want others to be able to learn. And so that's kind of, and it was funny because then when Jeff met with the group, and this was after we had that conversation of me telling everyone, okay, I'll take the reins, and Jeff's like, yeah, well, you should target like a free event, like 50 people, one track, right? And I'm like, well, I'll tell you what, Jeff, what if we did 150 people? Let's do like 5 tracks, right? And we'll do it in a nice hotel with good food, so we're gonna have to charge for it. And he thought we were crazy.
It does sound crazy,
but
I've never run a conference.
We had 289 people our first year, right? So it's to this day I remember the numbers of my first year. Right? I don't remember my last year's numbers. I know around what it was, but I know exactly how to the number of how many people we had.
Yeah, that's just a sign of a community starving for some content. To have your first year, also the work that you guys put in to market it and advertise it. But
it was. But you were right. It was a community who desperately wanted, which, definitely. It was awesome. I remember. Well, number one, because I've definitely learned the whole. You'll never get a yes if you don't ask. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And or on top of it, sometimes people ask, I didn't even realize who I was asking. So, like our first year's keynote was Douglas Crawford, right? And I didn't realize who he was when I first emailed him. Yeah. I knew he was working at Yahoo, right? And he was their top guy at Yahoo. I reached out because of that, and I'm like, oh, this guy's never responded to me, right?
You didn't know about his book?
I didn't put 2 and 2 together. It didn't click in my head. And because I knew the book, right? Although I hate JavaScript, so I want nothing to do with the book, right?
Well, it was a small book.
Well, it was, yes. But so it was funny. I emailed him, and he responded back within the day. I don't think it was the next day. I think it was the same day. And his question was, "Will you cover travel?" Well, then I'm like, "Who is this guy?" And I asked me if I'm at a small little conference. So then I actually really looked him up and I'm like, oh crap! Oh yeah. We'll cover your travel.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was you were downtown too, right?
Yep.
The first few years were downtown. That was great. That was that was the most fun I've had at a conference that first year. I remember that.
Yeah. Our first 5 years was downtown. Then the convention center was being rebuilt, and so prices went sky high. Mm-hmm. So we moved to 2 different places in the suburb area. Well, first area was not in the suburb area; it was a little bit farther away. Then we had 2 years at another place, and then last year and this year we were supposed to be back at the Hyatt,
but not even the real Lollapalooza.
Yeah,
it's in person, so you had to follow suit.
Yeah, I didn't want to, right?
I remember you were one of the last conferences I had on my list of still in person, and I was like, I don't think this is going to happen, but we'll see.
Well, March was a weird month. March going in April, right? It was just, that's
it was chaotic.
Well, that's when we were doing call for speakers, right? And everything started. It's like, oh, no big deal. This is something over in Asia. We don't have to worry about it so much. Maybe a little bit over here because people traveling, but I'm not too worried about it. And then, of course, Seattle got hit, and it was still, well, they're going to be able to contain this. This isn't going to be a problem, And so we went from, we're definitely going to be in person because by August, this should be all cleaned up.
Right.
Then we went to, okay, we're going to do hybrid because I can understand people are going to be hesitant to go to an event. And then we quickly had to, we can't have an event. It's going to have to be well, not that we can't have an event. We can't have an in-person event.
Yeah, hybrid seems like that would be for you like the worst option because of costs, right? Like you still had to have enough people to.
Crazy part is I don't think people understand it. Going online did not make this event free for me. It's still expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have any issues with like vendors and?
So far, not. I'm actually still waiting to hear because with the Hyatt, number one, it helps when you reach out to them like, hey, we can't do this event, but I want to sign the contract for next year. So that helps, right? You're already saying, I want to know the contract, right? And so for the big contract, they just basically moved that to next year. I still don't have dates yet, and I'm on their case because I really want dates so I can announce it during Code PaLOusa. But then but also we said we wanted to actually have like one of the big rooms used as a headquarters for this year. But last week I had to cancel that part too because I was like, it's just not going to work, right?
Yeah.
I was like, look, I'm going to force people wearing masks, but that's not going to work. Having people trying to talk to speakers, helping them out with masks on, it's just going to be a mess.
Yeah. So are you guys all going to do it remotely?
Well, we'll be all
the organizers?
All the organizers, all my volunteers. If I have my way, we'll have 60 volunteers, and that will be interesting. Or 60 shifts, right? So potentially people could do multiple days.
Gotcha.
So that'll be interesting, coordinating all that from online.
Yeah. The last conference I went to, actually I went to a conference in March, and I got back the Friday before everything shut down. And if I knew, obviously what I knew probably 4 days after that, I probably wouldn't have went. It was in California, and it was safe. They were, as safe as we were back then, right?
Right.
I mean, they passed out hand sanitizer, and people kind of tried to keep their distance. But that was the last conference.
Last conference I was at was South Florida Code Camp, which was February 29th. And it was interesting because there people were already getting a little bit skittish, right? And not skittish. We had a really good crowd, so they I don't think they lost any attendance. But because I think at that point the MVP Summit had already decided to go online. So you were already having people, so you're having a lot of speakers talk about that. Well, it's what's going on, with we don't even have a summit anymore. Weird times. I don't know about you, but I have several $1,000s in credits with Delta Airlines right now.
that's one of the as this few months have gone on, I haven't really missed a lot of things. There's two things I really missed. One is concerts. I had some really good concerts lined up this year, so I was bummed about that. And then second is just travel, just being able to get on a plane and go somewhere. And
I'm definitely missing the travel.
That's the worst of my my issues, and I realize that's pretty privileged. But
I'm in the same boat, right? I already worked from home, so that didn't change at all. My daughter came home, right, from Boston, so that was a difference, right?
She was going to school out there.
Yeah.
And did their university shut down, or she just wanted to come home?
Well, they went virtual. They went online.
They went online towards the end.
So up in Boston, they closed up those schools pretty quickly. It really boiled down. Harvard closed down quickly. It was maybe a couple days after. Yeah, exactly. And then all the schools just decided they all just realized, and it was weird because there was basically a mass exodus of Boston because Boston, it's literally just one school after another lined up to. Because there's so many of them, they're all next door to everything.
Yeah, that would have been a mess.
And now it was funny because my daughter really wanted to stay there because she's in an apartment, right? So she's like, well, I'm not having to deal with campus housing and everything. But mom was like, no, you need to come home.
Yeah, that's smart.
Mom was worried that things were going to shut down. Harder than they did, right? That she wouldn't be able to travel. She wouldn't be able to get home. Of course, right now, I think the two of them are ready for she goes back up to Boston in a week and a half, and I know I think both of them are ready for that to happen.
Yeah. I've been working at home since like 2006.
Okay.
So I've, I got a whole basement as my office, and like, I'm pretty well set up. This really hasn't affected me, but my wife, who's a teacher, so she had to teach remotely at home, and then we also had to figure out what we're doing with our kids. We have a 5-year-old and a 13-year-old. 13-year-old's fine. She loves school. She loves school. She likes work. She just sat in her room and she, got all A's and all that stuff. While my 5-year-old she was in kindergarten. It was her first year. And
yeah, that's tough.
That's tough.
And what grade does your wife teach?
She teaches first.
First grade?
So, yeah.
Yeah, so yesterday I was talking to someone who his wife teaches preschool.
Yeah.
And I, even with first grade, how do you keep attention of that's 7-year-olds, I guess?
Yeah, 7, 8. You don't really. You don't. It's a lot up to the parents. There's a lot of just people took the rest of the school year off basically. Which I get it. It's hard. She teaches in a kind of a poor school district, so a lot of them were working at the time. So a lot of them were like grandma's house or aunt's houses, and it's just not an environment to be able to concentrate. So she did a lot of virtual meetings. She did some classes online. She did really good for It's funny how many new teachers got introduced to Zoom and Google Meet. She'd come down. Have you heard of the Zoom before? yeah, babe. Heard of Zoom? Yeah. I don't know what their market cap is, but yeah, I've heard of them. So now it's just kind of a weird situation because nobody knows what's going to go on. Right now, the plan is for her to go back full time with reduced classes. So I think she's going to have like 11 or 15 kids in her. I think 11.
So space them out more.
Yeah, space them out. I don't know how that's working. Whatever. I think maybe the older, like 3rd and 4th grades, are working virtually, and then so the kindergarten through 3rd can be in the school. But she still doesn't know. I think everything's going to be shut down in 2 weeks anyway after school starts.
Well, that's the other crazy part. And sure, not me. So, I don't know how much you know because we haven't talked much since I got this new job. I've been doing it for over a year now, but so I'm in the educational space, right? We write content for medical school. Medical schools.
Okay. I didn't know that.
And so it's been interesting. Now we've been doing better because now more schools are picking up our content, right? They're like, oh, we need online content. But it's been interesting to watch what schools are doing. And like I look at my daughter's school, she's at Boston University. So you talk, one of the better schools in the country.
Yeah.
They still don't really know what they're going to do. They're saying they're going to be they're going to be in person. They're giving students the option to be online. But like my daughter, she's going to be an opera singer. Online doesn't really work very well for that. So,
yeah.
So her program is like, well, yeah, we're gonna have in-person classes, but her program's like 13. There's like 13 kids in her her level, so it's a lot. Again, it's a lot easier to separate it out. But the same rate, like Massachusetts, it's kind of. Now I haven't looked the last couple of days, but as of last week, Massachusetts has something. If you come in from out of state, if you're from a at-risk state, then you have to quarantine for 2 weeks. Well, so me and my daughter think, oh, well, Kentucky, we're not doing bad, right? We're thinking like Texas, Florida, California. Well, then you go further down this page and you look at this map that they put, and basically everything outside of New England was at risk.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that the other day. Yeah. Basically, I think like Michigan and like the Northwest, every other state is high risk, and it seems to be shifting, right? Like it was New York, and then the West Coast.
Well, Massachusetts literally hit everything but New England and Hawaii.
Yeah.
You were, but even Alaska was considered high risk. Right, everything, yeah. but
yeah.
Now, and I bet you that changed because, like I saw yesterday, that Rhode Island and maybe it was Connecticut are now being added to high risk states. So
yeah.
I don't know. I'm actually still back to. I hope she can actually try. She's supposed to leave the Monday before Code PaLOusa.
Is she driving back?
Now she'll fly back.
Yeah, flying back. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't know. Let's put it this way: I might have to do the crazy thing and actually drive to Massachusetts a couple days before Code PaLOusa. I wouldn't put it past it.
Yeah, that sounds like a busy week for you, Chad.
Or I might just try to bring my computer and work stay at her apartment for
Yeah.
She's actually got really good bandwidth too, so
that's good. Yeah, and schools BU probably has that.
Yeah. Well, again, she's out in the city because she's not at the campus.
Yeah. Right. But, she's off campus.
But Boston's got some. Number one, they're doing some really interesting stuff. They've got what is she using? It's called Starry, and I forgot what the.
Starring.
I'm looking this up real quick because I forgot the name of the service that they're using. It's called. I think it's like a 5G service type thing. Let's see here. I have to look
citywide. Citywide. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not finding it real quick. I'm looking at their site. What the technology is called that you're using. But basically, they've got boxes all over the city. They're just beaming to each other.
That's awesome.
But it was interesting. So she's getting ready to start her second year. When we were there last year, moving her in. Number one, the internet sales guys are just walking down the streets, just trying to find people, right? Because all these apartment complexes, there's not enough housing for the kids, so that you got them out in apartment complexes. And so they're just literally walking down the streets trying to find people to talk to.
Credit cards and internet providers.
I didn't see so many credit card providers, but I definitely saw internet providers. That was the one I saw. If you go to campus, that's where you see all the credit card providers.
You're right. Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Get them in young, and trap them.
Yeah. Get them in debt soon, early.
Yeah, well, trust me, she's got enough debt with student loans, so she doesn't need credit cards.
For sure, yeah. Every college, yeah. What's another 5,000, right?
It's kind of fun. Again, like I said, she's studying to be an opera singer, so she's got we're quickly getting to $200,000 in student loans, for a job that if she's lucky, will pay $40,000 a year.
Right.
If she's successful, right? It's but. Sure enough, my attitude towards it was, so she went to private school her whole educational career, and look, paying off the student loan is basically the same as what I was paying for her high school. I'm like, I'm just paying for high school forever. That's all it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and plus, if she loves it and she's passionate about it, you can always find a. It's 2020. You can find a way to make a living, selling Smurfs. So. Yeah, I don't doubt that she'll find a way to make money doing that. Yeah. Cool. So what else is up? You've been streaming a lot, huh?
I have been streaming a lot. And so, you're one. You said you streamed twice so far. You said.
Yeah, I'm trying to get like every developer in the world. I'm trying to get into streaming some more. I've tried several times to put together workshops and videos for sale and for free for some of the courses I have, and I need some work. So I'm working on practicing, and the way I want to practice is streaming, streaming a lot more. So so I've been buying equipment and that's where I'm at, really. It's just the fun of buying equipment. So,
Yeah, I
but
was noticing you got a nice microphone there. It's
yeah. Well, I do a podcast, so
Oh, that's right. I do remember that. Oh.
Yeah, yeah,
You've been doing that for quite a while, haven't you?
yeah. I think we're I don't know, 100 episodes, 100 and something episodes in. I do it with a friend of mine, Keith Thompson. We kind of talk about, it's called standup.fm. And we just kind of talk about our business ventures that we're doing. And it's basically just a bi-weekly stand-up call that we do, but we record it, and we keep track of what each other is doing and make sure we're on task and things like that. Yeah. So it's been fun. I really like doing it. It's really energizing after the podcast.
Yeah.
So.
No, I mean, well, like I say, I've been loving the streaming.
Yeah.
It was funny because I talked about it for a year. Well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And it was more of just, oh, that would be cool. I really did want to do it. But then, when all my speaking gigs got canceled, right? I was like, well, now I definitely have time to do it.
It takes a pandemic to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I was in the same boat. I've got, like I said, I got like a whole basement. So I plan on having like a desk to do work and like a desk to do streaming at. So I don't have like lights and video cameras and microphones hanging off of a desk I'm trying to work at. So.
Oh, so yeah, I do have that, but
Yeah.
And usually I get laughed at, during regular meetings because, of course, every video conferencing software wants to pick different options. Yeah. And of course, I've got 3 cameras set up. I've got, microphones and lights, and everyone's laughing. I'm like, hold on, because I'm speaking, they can't hear me. All right, hold on. Let me figure out what this software wants me to do now, right?
Yeah, everybody's making fun of when we did our virtual hangouts, when the pandemic started and we're all quarantined and we would do our virtual hangouts. My non-nerd friends would make fun of my microphone and stuff like that. So I can see why people see all this equipment. They think you're doing something else. So. But
so I'm curious. So what's your latest business venture? Because you're always building something new.
Yeah. So I kind of see it in phases. I get bored easily. So I've been working on my own since like 2006, freelancing. Still doing that. So, but I've kind of adjusted in the last year or so. Back, like 8 years ago, I had an employee and I had like 2 or 3 contractors, and I was working on like 8 projects at a time. And it was fun for a year or so. And it just got to be too much. I was just running around, and I wanted to kind of get into products, kind of get away from selling my time. I wanted to kind of have more control over my time, which is funny when people say I work on my own. I do have a lot of freedom, but I also have, at that time, 8 bosses, right? I didn't have one, I had, 8 bosses. And so then I actually formed a proper agency with like 3 other co-founders. This was 2 years ago. Because I was like, well, I've been doing this for, 10 years at the time. And either I'm going to go all in or I'm not going to do this anymore. So I tried to go all in, and props to people that can do that, because that is hard as hell to create a proper agency. There's a lot of waste in the beginning that you kind of have to get around. And if you don't have a lot of runway, that can be an issue. So that lasted about a year. It was good. And just for financial reasons, we all had to kind of leave. And after that happened, which was about a year and about last February is when we kind of broke up. And that agency was called Kinship. one of the partners is still running it, and we're all still friends and everything. So everything's good there. But after that, I was like, you know what? I just want to concentrate on one single client at one time, and then work on this on some side projects. So that's what I'm doing. I have one client. I work 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, and then the Friday I have off when I work on my products. And so right now, the products I'm working on, I have one product out there called Tatsu, which is a bot in Slack that allows you to do stand-up meetings. Created that in 2015. It was like the first Slack stand-up bots, and now there's like 15 of them.
Right.
So, but it still, it still makes, $1,000 a month, just sitting there. There's people that come in, and a constant flow of people because of the Slack app store.
Right.
So after that, I started working on a product called Chronic, which is it's a focus timer, kind of like Pomodoros. Mm-hmm. So the way that I don't know if you're familiar with the Pomodoro technique, but the way I work is in Pomodoros, which is the official Pomodoro time is 25 minutes. You work for focus time. You shut down Twitch, you shut down YouTube, Twitter, all that stuff, and you just focus. And then you get because you know that there's going to be a 5-minute break coming up. When you get that 5-minute break, you're supposed to get up and move around. And I've been working on this way for a decade. And it's just the way I need to work. And so my friend that I do the podcast with, Keith, he and I started talking, 5 years ago, and we wanted this certain type of Pomodoro timer that was not out yet. It still is not out, and we had some unique takes on it. And so we were working on that for the past 2 years. On and off, obviously, not 2 years straight. And he, since we didn't ship anything in 2 years, he's kind of gone off and done his own thing. This is all in the podcast. And because Chronic was so ambitious, because we wanted to launch an iPhone app, an Android app, a Slack app, a Mac app, we wanted to be all on these platforms. Mm-hmm. I put that on the back burner, and now I'm kind of going back in on some bots, on some chatbot stuff. It's closely linked to Chronic. Chronic's not dead. I'm just kind of looking for some co-founders right now to build that back up. So in the meantime, I'm working on another chatbot that it's kind of a unique chatbot. It's called Break Time. And it's going to allow you to, when you're on a break, you can ask it what some things you can do. So you can ask it, like, if you want to read Twitter, it'll give you some tweets. If you want to pick up on an Audible book that you had, it'll pick up on the Audible book. If you want to watch a YouTube video or a Twitch stream, you'll be able to connect to those, and it'll mm-hmm. feed you the stuff you're already in Slack, so it'll feed you all that information right in Slack. So that's what I'm working on right now. So yeah, I do go back and I do try to create. My goal is just to create a lot of products and see kind of what sticks and take it from there.
Well, then you'll fit just fine with live coding on Twitch, because it seems like half the people are writing chatbots of some sort.
Yes. Yeah. I know Jeff Blankenberg is always writing.
Well, yeah, but of course he works for Alexa, so yeah.
He does. Yeah. So it's a good fit. So yeah, part of that, I'm also working on an open source library. It's going to be an MVC framework for chatbots, which really doesn't exist to my knowledge right now. So that's where my kind of live coding and stuff is going to go, mm-hmm. is towards working on that open source project.
No, that's actually a really good thing to do with it.
Yeah.
Actually, our last meetup speaker, Michael Crump, I don't know if you know Michael or not.
I do. I know the name.
But he used to be with Telerik. Now he's with Microsoft. He's I forgot what he's doing at Microsoft. He's a PM, but I forgot where he's a PM. But and he does stream quite a bit. I mean, a couple times a week. But he actually did a talk about doing your OS projects on Twitch. Right?
Nice.
Because he talked about because you can find other people who are interested because they can watch you do it and all this kind of stuff. I'll send you a link to it. I mean, because I've got it up on YouTube because we record everything.
Yeah, I'm using it as kind of a marketing angle as well, right? So you kind of get more followers on your open source project, and obviously I want to make it a pretty successful open source project. I'm also going to experiment with something called sponsorware. Have you heard of sponsorware?
No, I mean I can imagine what it is, but
yeah, it's it was made. I guess the term was coined by Caleb. I can never pronounce his last name. It's not even that hard, but it's Caleb PaLOUsa, something like that. He's the creator of Alpine.js.
Okay.
And the creator of a WebSocket library for Laravel PHP. And he created both of those projects with sponsorware. And basically the idea is you're creating a library that's going to be open source. It is open source, but it's private until you reach a certain goal, which is the number of sponsors or the amount of money that you want per month for sponsorship. And once it reaches that goal, you open source it. You release it to the world. But during that private time, anybody that sponsors your project will have access to the code. They'll have input to the project. They can create issues. Same thing you can do on any open source project. So that really intrigued me, and he's had a lot of success. I think that's how he makes his living now. I think he makes over 100,000 a year on GitHub sponsorships. And so I think the project I'm working on has the potential to be really influential, I think, in the chatbot space. So it's a unique take. So I'm gonna try that approach while I'm building Juve. Juve is the library I'm calling it.
I'll have to try it with. So I have still in the very beginnings of an OSS project. I should try that with get all 10 people who might actually use my package.
Yeah.
I built an ORM for Gremlin databases, right? So it's there really is not that many users across the world, but it's something I want. So
yeah, I just like the idea of making open source more sustainable. There's so many people that think that they have agency over these open source contributors and maintainers, and they're just doing it on their own time and own dime. And so really the only way to make projects sustainable is either like corporate sponsorship, or you're working at a company that allows you to do open source work on their time, or you just have a lot of time on your hands and you want to work on it. So there's more ways to make it more sustainable, I think.
What do you think about like GitHub sponsorships that they're doing?
Yeah, that's what Caleb's sponsorware is based on.
Okay.
Yeah. So so if you go to the project Juve's project page on GitHub, there's a README that says, "Hey, this is sponsorware. If you want access, be a sponsor." And then what I'll do is I'll give those users access to the private repo until such a point where it's sustainable.
Right.
Yep.
No, I mean, like I joke with my project because literally not many people would use it. I should say, I'm still in the early. There's graph databases, right? And graph databases are starting to pick up. I'm still on the bleeding edge, or not on the bleeding edge. What the leading edge is, what although I believe it's picking up a whole lot more in Europe because I'm getting a lot of traction from Europe.
Yeah, I don't think there needs to be, people that need to use that open source project for them to sponsor you, right? There may be ideas in there that they want, that they like.
Sure.
There may be ORM nerds that like, that project. There may be people that have customers that use your product, right? So like in terms of open source project I'm working on, there, you may not use Juvet, you may not even use Elixir, but you may want to see the chatbot space grow. And so you may sponsor it because of that. So I don't think there needs to be like a direct relation between you using it and sponsoring. Also, people just like, might like the work that you do in open source and just want to sponsor it, So there, there's a couple angles there that I think you could work with for that.
Yeah. Oh, I will have to look at that. And it is interesting. I mean, talking about GraphQL, it is interesting. Like when I speak about it here in the United States, everyone's like, "Oh, okay, yeah," but I mean, at least I'm doing a speaking event in October, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, you're gonna have at least 40 people sit in an all-day workshop that they're paying to sit in." I'm like, "Okay, you say so."
Wow. Where is this? Where is this? I know it's online, but where's it based out of?
Well, it's based out of, well, actually, it's kind of weird. They're based out of, well, there's a couple different parts to this, right? Okay. So the conference was supposed to be in Nice, France. Okay. Basically you got a dev organization that I think is based out of Brussels, I believe. I could be wrong on that. But then they hire an event company that works with them, who's based out of Ireland.
So why is this why is the interest peaking in Europe?
I'm not sure, right? Okay. That's going to be the hard part with this can all be virtual now, right? I'm supposed to be there, and I was really looking forward to that because I really would love to hear this more of, why are you interested in this? What do you want out of this? But yeah, so I mean, I'll do the best I can, asking people virtually, because I've done this workshop before. It's not a new workshop, although I'm in the middle of rewriting it. But well, one, because I'm hoping that I have this ORM far enough along that I can say, hey, look, and here you can use this. Yeah, the hard part about Gremlin is a real pain to dev against, because you basically have to write all these strings to create your objects and update them. Hence an ORM, right, to make that whole lot simpler. But yeah, I'll be curious to see how it goes, right? And I'll also be curious to see how it goes when I have to start at 4:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
Although, sure enough, I mean, I had a speaker reach out to me the other day who was supposed to do an all-day workshop, and he's based out of Belgium, and he's like, yeah, can we make it like a 4-hour workshop? Because otherwise we're ending at 11 o'clock my time, and that's a bit hard. And I was looking at it, he doesn't start till 4:00 in the afternoon. I'm like, well, yeah, we can do that. We can make that work.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that stinks that you, have you been to France before?
I personally have been to France, although just once and just 2 years ago. First trip to Europe was 2 years ago. Paid many, my daughter's been several times, so I've paid plenty of penny for it. But
that's awesome.
Actually, the funny part was it was not her first trip. It was maybe her second or third trip over there. And again, she's studying the opera, so she goes, going over to study opera. But like her second or third trip, she was in Paris on the last day of the Tour de France. And I've been a cycling fan my whole life. Right? I used to. Wow. I mean, when I was younger, I raced, and and I was an aspiring racer and all that good stuff. Oh, and cool. It was. She actually had a really good caption on Facebook. Right? She posted the picture, and she's like, "Yeah, sorry, Dad, I'm living your dreams."
Oh, that's good and bad, right? I mean, that's what you want, right? That's
I was excited for. I'm like, how lucky could you? Because she didn't even realize it, right? She just happened to be on the Champs-Élysées, right? Because that's where they end the Tour de France. She had no clue, right? That was just a day that she was in Paris, and of course she had to go visit the Champs-Élysées, and lo and behold, the race is going right past her. But also she was going so quickly. She wasn't able to stick around long enough to actually see the end or anything. But I was able to see them come in and start doing that. Although it was interesting when we went. So this was 2 years ago. So it was during the World Cup, and we were on the Champs-Élysées when France won their. It wasn't even the semifinals. The game before the semifinal.
The quarterfinals. Yeah.
Yeah, the quarterfinals.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the road just exploded. Everyone was just, and of course I'm saying, and my wife and daughter are like, oh, what are they all crazy about? Well, they just won, a World Cup game. Like, oh, so they won the whole thing. I'm like, no, they got 2 more games to play before they actually get to the championship game.
What was that? Was that Louisville when it was going? It might not have been Louisville. There was a conference going on during the World Cup when USA went pretty deep. I think it was like 2012, maybe.
No, 2012.
And all the streets were just lined with like people, and they're all using those vuvuzelas, those horns.
Well, it wasn't Code PaLOusa, but Code PaLOusa has been. We've done it Derby Week. We've done it. Did he just freeze up? Sure did. He just froze up for a minute.
Sorry, my internet I think just took a. Yeah.
So I would say, we've had Code PaLOusa during Derby Week, which was interesting. We've been there the same week as the first and second round of the NCAA tournament, with Kentucky playing right next door. I mean, literally right across the street was the arena where they were playing, and
that's awesome.
I still remember that was the year we had backpacks, and they were blue with black stripes, and you had at the hotel we were at, it was the Marriott, was the same hotel the basketball teams were staying at, right? So you had people scouting the hotels, trying to get glimpses of the teams, and of course Kentucky stayed at the hotel. And people were actually walking back and forth the night before Code PaLOusa as we're stuffing these bags. I'm like, this isn't Kentucky. Go on. This is for a tech conference.
That's awesome. I used to work in and in the Renaissance Center building. It's the big building where GM is. Yeah, if you're familiar. And this was like in 2005 or 4. Whenever the Super Bowl was in Detroit.
Oh wow!
I worked there, and we would just walk in. We'd throw our bags on the desk and just walk downstairs, and you could see every celebrity and every athlete just walking around the Renaissance Center, and they would have ESPN would do shows from there, and I remember that it was fun. You just go downstairs, and nothing got done that whole week for the company, but it was a good experience.
Of course, I'm sure now. The hardest Code PaLOusa was the 1 year where, there were several years we were there. It was the weeks leading up to the Derby. That was pretty common. Not Derby week, but like maybe 2 weeks prior or 3 weeks prior. 1 year. So for the Derby, it's a 2-week party. All right? We celebrate for 2 weeks for a 2-minute race. But and one of the events is a mini and full marathon, right? And and I talked to the event because we were going to be it was going to be the same day as because this is when we were still on Saturdays. It was going to be the same days as the marathon, and I talked to the conference, the hotel. Like, you won't have a problem. Here's where the streets are closed off. We're outside of where they're closing the roads off. I'm like, cool, no problem, right? Well, that was the year of the Boston Marathon bombing. And like 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks, a week or 2 weeks afterwards. So they all of a sudden closed a whole lot more roads.
Yep, they shut down the whole city. Yep.
So if you weren't staying at the hotel, you weren't getting into the conference, until a couple hours later. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I remember that.
So yes, the fun part about Code PaLOusa is, I don't know if we ever actually had a year where it's just been normal, right? A normal conference. There always is something.
I hear that from all conference organizers, pretty much. Yeah. Expect the unexpected.
Yep. Like who could have expected a global pandemic?
Right. Yeah.
So how did you get your start in technology?
Yeah, so I was probably a late bloomer than most people when I hear their stories. I wasn't really into computers much until high school. Um, Actually, my cousin would come over when I was like in grade school, and he was like, like the family's computer whiz, right? And he would basically just come over and clean out our crappy Windows 95 machines, make them fast again, and just getting them running well. And he would always be on the command line doing stuff. And I just remember just like watching him and like, oh, that's so cool. Like, I don't know what it was. So, and then in high school, junior year in high school, I took a basic course in basic. And yeah, they were teaching Pascal, which was a more advanced course. And then basic was like the intro course. And I just remember I loving the idea of like just creating stuff that wasn't there, just by your own imagination. You can create stuff. So that led me to go to college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do in college. I was like, I'll try this computer stuff out. And since then, I've been hooked.
Cool.
So yeah, I took computer science at Bowling Green State University in Ohio. And I was an intern for a tire manufacturing company where we would, this was like I graduated in 2001. So this was like 98, 99. This was like the Y2K stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I had an internship where I'd have to go through, find anywhere where we're comparing dates, 2-digit dates, and convert those to 4-digit dates. And that work was the worst.
Oh, yeah.
It was the worst. I almost quit. I was like, if this is what it's like, I thought, oh, this is what it's like. You sit in a cubicle and you read dot matrix printouts of COBOL programs. Of course, I wasn't that naive, but I was like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Do I really want to do this? But stuck it out. I actually like COBOL a lot, but I just hated what I was doing. But then I moved into like Visual Basic and kind of GUI stuff, and found my love again, and then eventually web. So yeah, that's how I got my start. It's basically my cousin doing some cleaning up Windows 95 machines. That kind of got me started. So
you remind me of a funny story. So because you're talking about Pascal being offered in high school. So I'm a little bit older, right? And so my senior year in high school, they did have an advanced placement computer science. It was one of the first years it was offered. Because this is still pretty, I graduated in 90, right? So it's still pretty early. Yeah. And it was funny because I actually technically didn't qualify because I didn't have all the right classes and everything. But my father's a software developer, right? And so we just moved to Texas. And we're finding out they have this class, and I remember the conversation with the counselor because he's like, well, I'm not sure. He doesn't have this math class. He doesn't have that. And my father's like, he's been writing software since he was 7. I think he'll be okay, right?
Right.
But so where the real funny part was, and proof that I'm a true developer, right? Of course, you talk about interview people, and you talk about what you're looking for, and you're looking for lazy developers, right? People who are going to use the tools to their benefit, right? Mm-hmm. And we were using Turbo Pascal. That was the language we were using. But our teacher, who was a PhD in math, right? But number one, he wanted everything we had to write applications for was to solve math problems. And sure enough, that's where it was hard. I didn't have those math classes because I had no clue what we were doing. Luckily, I had good friends who could explain me the math so I could write the applications for it, right? But I use Turbo Pascal to its full extent. I used all the extensions they added to it and all the little tools. And this teacher would keep on digging me. It's like, no, Stephen Worth, who's the guy who wrote Pascal, he's like, Stephen Worth had this idea that you write a procedural language, it has to be this, has to be that. And I'm like, yeah, but we're using Turbo Pascal. I'm using the tools you gave me.
Right.
And it was so funny. He and I were good in these arguments all throughout the school year. I did not finish that class because one day he and I, a week didn't go by that he and I were not having an argument, right? And so one day we're having an argument again, and I'm like, "What, Doc? Why do we have to keep on writing, programs to solve math problems? This is not real world stuff, right? Let's do something we actually can learn from, right?" And he told me, it's like, you'll never succeed at computers if you don't know math. Well, I looked at him. I'm like, I tell you what, Doc, my dad is worse at math than I am. He makes more money in a year than you're going to make in 20 years. So I don't know what,
I'm going to listen to my dad.
So I was promptly kicked out of that class and told to never return.
So your dad, where did your dad work? Did he work at
a
large company or?
No, at the time, no. Well, actually at that time he was working for a larger company. He had a very interesting, so it's interesting. Hey.
Lovely. Yes.
Yeah, like I said, that does happen from time to time. I'm going to keep my video off for you.
Okay.
I have found that if I do that, sometimes that solves the problems.
Okay.
It might be the apartment complex coming home from work.
Yep. No worries.
So I'm sorry. So my father, he actually, he's a dual major. He majored in math and psychology, and actually at first he was working for what's called Central State Hospital, which is a mental hospital for the criminally insane children. And he was miserable. He hated it, right? Because he's working with kids who murdered their families, burned their houses. Did a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's gotta be hard.
And it turned out that they had a program that they needed updated. They didn't have any programs to work on, and he just started fooling with it. He really enjoyed it, and so he started learning more and more. And so he started working for some bigger companies. We moved around because as he was getting his career going. But then when AT&T broke up, all of a sudden you had all these these baby bells that had to find services, right? Because they were no longer allowed to use AT&T's internal services. They had to find their own. And one of the things that they needed was call center management. So the managing of when people were on the phones, off the phones, on breaks, on vacation, all this kind of stuff. And he just seemed to find a niche there. And actually, he still does a little bit. He's mostly retired at this point. But he's actually, it's called workforce management is what it's called. And he's actually considered to be one of the experts in workforce management. And so, because he happened to be in the early days of doing that. And so, so hence he made good money doing it, right?
Sure, for sure.
Especially for a while, he was doing the $800 contracting gigs, right? So which is why like his condo he lives in right now, he paid cash for, and then redid it, with like marble from Italy, all cash, right? Because he was just made good money for several years,
banking it.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. That's fortunate you had that in your family to kind of influence you.
Well, that's why people ask me about how I got my start. I'm like, oh yeah, I started writing programs when I was like 7, I always talk. I started playing with computers when I was 7, and of course nowadays you talk to some of the younger generations, like, well, why so late? I'm like, well, you got to remember, that was 1978, so
exactly,
that was pretty rare to even have a computer in your house. Need less, writing applications for it. So my first computer that was mine was an Atari 400 computer. But before I had that, I had hand-me-downs, but they were like HP Unix boxes that my father no longer needed, and I was playing around with them.
Yeah, I didn't get my like I mentioned earlier, I was a late start, and I didn't get my own computer until I was in college. Used loans to get it.
Yep.
I must get a computer. And I didn't get that till I was probably a sophomore. Before that I was just hanging out in labs. the Unix lab and stuff like that. So yeah, and everybody always remembers their first computer. I remember what our first computer. I remember the day. It was on Christmas. Like a whole family got a computer, but I couldn't tell you what it was. I couldn't tell you, but yeah, I remember my dad basically hogging the computer the whole Christmas day, and us kids couldn't even get near it. So it was basically a present for him. Right. So.
No, like I said, I remember those because it had an HP 120 and HP 150. The 150 was cool because it was a touch screen, right? So it literally had a lip about this big on it with lasers, or light, not really lasers, but lights coming out. So it wasn't very accurate, right? Because you literally had to be able to cross those beams. But it worked, right? I mean, you could touch. I mean, you had big buttons, right? You could touch it and click it as a button.
When was this? Like, what year was this?
This would have been the late 70s.
Wow.
Or late 70s, very early 80s. Maybe 80, 81.
That's crazy.
Because I remember in fourth grade, they had me. It was funny. They didn't have me compete in science fair. They had me compete in math fair because they didn't know where to put me because I did computers. And actually, I had that touch sensitive screen, and I had my Atari 400, and I was just showing off things that that we could do with computers. And it was so funny because this is a private school. They didn't have a whole lot of money because most Catholic private schools either have a ton of money or have no money, right? I mean, there is no in between.
Yeah, I went to private school,
and we were on the had no money schools, right? And we were in this old gym, right? And every time the disk drive would run, it would zap the power. And I was able to troubleshoot it. It was only when the disk drive ran, which was once. I needed to load the program and then it would run. But they got to the point like, well, you're not allowed to run your computer. I'm like, but I'm doing a project on computers, right? It's part of the whole show.
Oh, they didn't understand.
I actually still won that math fair.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I still have that ribbon somewhere.
Crazy. Yeah.
Real quick, let's talk about your workshop. So you're one of my people who's doing a workshop.
Yes.
Which God bless you.
Thank you. This is going to be my first remote workshop. So which I mean, again, you always come up with awesome titles, right? So got you where I want you, right? Build a React native app with GraphQL. I mean, so it's pretty obvious what you're talking about. But so I'm curious. I've started to dabble with GraphQL. I mean, but actually, I've got some questions for you, right? Because listening to someone else who said he won't touch GraphQL with a 10-foot pole because of the security concerns. Okay.
What do you think about a statement like that?
I'm not sure what the security concerns would be because the security is like there's nothing baked into GraphQL in terms of security or authentication or authorization. So it's still something you have to build, just like if you would make a REST API or maybe not a SOAP API, but God help you if you're doing that. So yeah, I'm not sure what those concerns are. I'm probably not familiar with them.
Right. Well, I just heard it. I didn't even hear it live. I heard a clip of this. And I'm purposely not saying who, but I mean, someone big in the .NET community made that comment.
Yeah.
And actually, someone who may still be in the chat, he was the one who shared a clip with me because he knew I'd been looking at GraphQL because I have a specific purpose that I would like to use with it. And of course, I remember telling him, well, I don't see where there would be a security concern other than if you're stupid, right? I mean, sure, you can be stupid and you put things out in the wild and let you get to any kind of data you want.
Sure. It's the same though. It's the same with a REST API or any sort of API. Like there's nothing like maybe besides SOAP, like I said, but there's nothing inherent about APIs that come with security. I mean, the only difference with like GraphQL is you're always posting to the same endpoint. Just the payload is different, right? So I mean, usually that's the case, and so. I mean, even your dog agrees. So, but yeah, so the talk came about like because that's what I was doing for most of my clients, literally for the last two years, year and a half. We're all, hey, we want a mobile app, we also want a web app, and so we need an API that talks to both of those. And so I was doing a lot of those type of projects, learned a lot. And so I want to create a workshop to those are kind of my favorite types of, workshops where you're distilling months and years of knowledge that you've gained down into a workshop where people can learn by doing themselves. So it's a pretty ambitious workshop. I say there's no way we're going to get through it all because it's basically creating a whole application. Like we start from the beginning and we create the server side API along with the React Native front end client, and we do it in 2 languages and 2 different platforms. So it's a lot to learn, and it's not meant for the people to come away to being an expert in any of those. Right. It's more of the hope is that people get the realization that they too can be quote unquote full stack engineers, right? And create their own application. Some people may be stronger in the front end, some people may be stronger in the back end, but this kind of workshop does it all. So you can kind of learn the full gamut. And I've done this workshop twice before. So I've learned a bit about what can and can't be done, or what we should skip and things like that. So it's fun.
But those have been in person?
Yes, those were in person. One was in Nashville. What's that conference in Nashville?
Talking about Music City?
Music City. That was the first time I did it. And the second one was in Ohio somewhere. I can't remember. It was last year. It was pre-pandemic. All I know is pandemic. I know the current times. So yeah. And then the product that we make was an idea that I had a while ago, which seems really silly now. But it was a way to get conference goers to meet in real life, like at the conference. So the idea came to me from so I used to be a professional paintball player. I'm not sure if you knew that, or if you knew that was a thing. But I used to travel around the world and shoot people in the face with a toy gun for money. And the thing that got me into paintball, which I did for 10 years of my life or more, was this movie called Gotcha that I saw. It's an 80s movie. And it starts out with a kid going across his campus, and he has like these IDs of people, like student IDs of these people. And he's like popping out of, it's ridiculous. He's like popping out of garbage cans and like shooting students like while they're riding their bike to class. Obviously, none of this could exist today, nor should it existed then. But I remember watching this movie, like it was in the 80s, and I asked my dad, I was like, what campus is that? And he's like, I think that's UCLA. So I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to go to UCLA for school, and I'm going to do this paintball thing. So the idea with the Gotcha was the app, you could opt in to an arena, which is like a geo-fenced area of the conference, and it would randomly give you information about another attendee in that arena or at that conference, and you had to go and meet them and say hi to them, and then they give you a QR code that you can scan, and there's a point, right? So the idea was to be more social at conferences, which is why I say it seems pretty silly now. But in the before times, last year, I thought it was a pretty good idea that conferences could use.
Yeah, no, it is a good idea. I mean, of course, now we're trying to figure out how to do that virtually.
Right. So the arena is remote, but
I'll be curious. So I mean, with Code PaLOusa, we will have a way so people can meet people randomly, right? I'll be curious to see how many people actually use that.
Yeah. So I haven't finished the application, but the idea was that, hey, here's the application that this conference is actually using. Let's go ahead and build it, And it has some complicated stuff in there, like geofencing, using the camera, scanning QR codes, and an API for all that stuff.
No, I wish I knew more. I know I read the abstract, but that was back in March. I probably forgot if it said all that.
Yeah, it does. It doesn't, because it's hard to break that down.
Right.
What I think I need to do is probably attach a blog post link to it or something like that. That explains it. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully, eventually, we'll be able to go back to where we can have in-person conferences.
Oh, we will. I mean, as a human species, we need that, right?
Oh yeah. No, I know we will. I mean, when I say that, hopefully, it's more of a question: is that 2021 or 2022?
Yeah, exactly.
I have my doubts as to whether that'll be next year or not.
I know. It's sad, but
I mean, as I mentioned, I'm already working with the venue to get a date for next year.
Yeah.
But deep in my head, I'm like, I don't know if we're actually still going to be able to do it.
It's not trending in the right direction, Chad, in the United States.
Well, on top of it, I mean, because I did talk to him, I'm like, if we do have an event, well, the hard part for them is I'm going to need the same amount of space, but it'll be less people. Because I assume if we can have an in-person event, it has to be hybrid. Because we'll have to, we'll just have to have a hybrid event because people are not going to be willing to come yet.
Yeah. I wonder if that's true for a conference like Code PaLOusa, which is it's a large gathering, but although people seem to, they're either from Louisville or from the community. So I'm just wondering, I know from, just talking to colleagues that I talk to, I have a Slack channel with a bunch of people that I've met through conferences.
Right.
And we all miss conferences a lot. That's why you pay the money. That's why online conferences are free tickets or $50 tickets compared to $1,000. It's because that in-person time is the best time. That's actually how I get a lot of my clients.
Right.
Is going to conferences and speaking and talking and. Countless of my gigs that I've gotten have gone back to speaking at conferences.
Oh, I know quite a few people that's how they get most of their work.
So hopefully we can figure this thing out and get a good start on 2021, and hopefully it won't be an issue by August of next year.
I know they're making good progress on the vaccination. It's just. I mean, I'm waiting for the shoe to drop and we got a setback, and it's going to be a couple more months, right?
Yeah, I feel more
it seems like the vaccination is going a little bit too fast, right?
Yeah. Well, human ingenuity is pretty incredible.
No, I mean, I didn't expect this would take years, right? But it did seem like, we have a vaccine. I mean, no, we don't have a vaccination, but we have something that is getting close to being something ready for the next level of testing. And I'm like, that just seems to be a little bit quicker than even optimistically you could have thought of.
Right, because I heard, nobody's ever created a vaccine, less than 18 months, right? is the thing I've always heard. So I don't know if that's true or not, but
Yeah.
it seems like this has gone much faster. I'm worried more about like the supply, who's going to get it, who's going to be the first. It's kind of like a space race almost. Who's going to be the first?
TV and movies have always taught us that over the weekend someone's going to create a vaccination and there's supply ready immediately, right?
Right. Every product I've created, everybody on Hacker News says that they can create it in a weekend. So I'm sure these exist. So.
Yeah. Awesome. You have any closing thoughts?
I'm just one, I'm thankful that you're doing these. Spotlighting people in the community. I've watched several of them, so they've all been interesting and learning stories about people more than just their professional lives is that's what we gravitate towards. All humans like stories.
Mm-hmm.
That's really why sports exists. It's why drama exists. So. I appreciate you doing this, and I'm looking forward to watching more, and then also Code PaLOusa.
Awesome. Well, I do appreciate that. And sure enough, I've been talking about. I'm going to continue these after Code. I mean, obviously, it won't just be Code PaLOusa speakers, and I don't know the frequency yet, but I want to continue these because they've been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying them. And I know people who've been watching them have been enjoying them.
Yeah, they're really great. Really great.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you joining me now. And again, like I said, God love you. You're doing a workshop. Like I said, I'm doing a workshop in October. I'm going to be reaching out to everyone that does a workshop at Code PaLOusa and get tips, right? How do you do this thing virtually, right?
Yeah. One thing I do know is, we're going to be at the time where a lot of people are going back to school. And so I think I'm going to have to modify a little bit of the workshop to make sure there's a lot of breaks. I think that's going to be key.
Good point.
Yeah, just people can tend to whatever they need to tend to, and not make it. This workshop in particular, I start at the beginning. I don't know how far we're going to get, but you have access to all the code, and you have access to me if you have any questions after this. We'll see where we get.
My goal is to write an email tonight, but to the workshop speakers, my point is, look, you don't really need to follow a schedule. You work it as is, which we do that in person, right? I mean, it's obviously like the half days, like you need to finish because I got another half day coming in. But here, there's not even a restriction there because of it's all virtual. The hardest part I have to work out is the recordings, and I'm. So the system we're using actually automatically records everything, but it only does 2-hour recordings.
Oh.
and I just found that out like a week ago, and I reached out to them, and they're like, just have everyone drop the session and then restart the session. I'm like, okay, talk about annoying, right? So
that seems like a
I have an idea.
Maintenance nightmare.
I have an idea.
Like a maintenance nightmare.
I think I'm gonna create a bunch of virtual machines, and be a participant in the session and just record on the virtual machine and just let it go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. That's a good solution.
Yeah. Use my Azure credits to their fullest.
I hope you got a lot of them.
Thank God I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, it's pretty cool. Microsoft will give you have to ask for it as an MVP. As an MVP, you get MSDN, which automatically includes $150 a month.
That's true.
But you can then ask for an extended, and so I get $1,000 a month.
Oh wow!
And the cool part is it's not like it's 1,000 this month, 1,000 next month. If I use 2,000 this month, that's fine. It's just at the end of the year, I have $12,000.
I got a little rollover. You got rollover minutes.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that seems like a good solution.
And sure enough, I mean, actually, I could probably ask Microsoft, hey, can I have this for free?
Yeah.
For this event?
For sure. For sure.
I mean, sure enough, my coordinator actually reached out to me today about what can Microsoft do to help. So I'm
awesome.
Hoping for some conversation in the next couple of days about that.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, thanks for having me, Chad. I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us. And as you've seen, we'll be posting these up on YouTube within about 24. Well, within about 24 hours. I haven't posted yesterday's yet, so I forgot to edit the video last night.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. What? Yep.
All right.
So
I'll
see you in a few weeks.
Yep. See ya.
All right. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.